All right, welcome to an episode of Whiskey Fine, Whiskey with Friends, whiskey tasting with friends or something along those lines. So today we're gonna try out some different bourbons and kind of not necessarily kind of, these ones are all roughly the same price except for one. This one's actually a little bit on the higher value, and this one goes for roughly about the same price as these two, MSRP. But aftermarket, you're going to have some pretty interesting pricing on this one especially, which is a whole nother topic to begin discussing. But for now, I have Josh, and he will be tasting some of these wonderful whiskeys. We're going to start with the Woodford Reserve Double Oak. So we'll put that there, followed by a Breckinridge Rum, Jefferson Ocean Wheated.
I should note for people who aren't into whiskeys, that's not rum. It is a whiskey. It's it's whiskey that was aged in a rum cask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this one's also unique because it has, some people might be upset by this, depending on who you are, but it does have natural flavors added, which I noticed today for the first time when I was packing it up. I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting.
It looks like hazy, too.
Yeah, I don't know if that's because of the wonderful weather we're having, if it's on the bottle.
Yeah. All right.
And then the Stagg will be last because it's the higher proof when we don't want to blow out our tongue with the heat. So
you were telling me earlier that like the street prices are all like crazy all over this thing, right? So what are the street prices? What's the actual price you can buy it for?
So MSRP for the Woodfords and the Breckinridge roughly are anywhere between, depending on where you're at and taxes, all that fun stuff, would be for these two, would roughly be about anywhere from high 40s to high 60s, depending on where you're at. The Jefferson Ocean is roughly, depending on where you're at, you're going to look at probably around high 70s to all the way up to 110, 120, depending on where you're at.
I got that one at like 110.
Yeah. So, Washington is not the best for buying whiskey.
No.
This one is unique because it's the Stagg Jr. So not even the big boy Stagg. The big boy Stagg goes for, I want to say like 100-something MSRP, but thousands of dollars aftermarket.
Oh, really?
This one, so this one's the Junior, and a little Junior under the G there.
Sure.
If you guys can see. But this one goes roughly for like $60 to $70 MSRP, I want to say. And then, but on the aftermarket or any store you find it in, it's going to be probably around $150 at the lowest, but more likely $300, $400, somewhere around there. So yeah, these are, I got lucky and got all of these for MSRP.
So answer a noob question for me. So I know that a lot of like that Jefferson, like it's a specific number. On it. And I've noticed that with a lot of other whiskeys. Do the lower numbers go for more? So like if you got like 1 out of 500, would it matter?
No. Okay. So that's just the bottling. And so what you're looking at, and so Voyage 22, that's just this, like for the Jefferson specifically, that means it's the 22nd voyage they did on the ocean with this style of aging, which for Jefferson is, if you guys don't know, they take the barrels, they throw them on one of their boats, they do, then they cross the equator a couple times and then head back, and which is crazy because it actually does add like a little bit like of like that salted caramel or like a sea salt. I don't know. It's hard to explain without trying it.
Maybe. But it's funny how much like placebo there could be too with it, like because you're like, oh, ocean, sea salt, right? You start thinking about those flavors while you're drinking it. So who knows?
So many subjective factors.
Right.
But anyways, Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, one of my staples and all-time favorites. It's very easy to drink and a fun one to have.
Scotty.
And we'll try not to kill ourselves with too much prior to getting to the end here. I get oak for sure, but then it moves into like a sweet, very sweet caramel traditional. This to me is like traditional bourbon. Like this is the epitome of what.
Yeah, it's like very caramel notes. It's a little sweeter for sure. I've noticed that you can't really dig too deep with the nose or else you get a lot of alcohol. You kind of have to take it easy on the smell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, to me, it has a little bit of that initial taste of it is a little bit
There's
tangy.
a little shock to it. Yeah, there's a little bit of a zing right up front.
And so I've also been told that the first taste should always be a quick get down your throat to get the shock, the system shock off the matter.
Oh, we're drinking poison.
Yeah.
Okay, this is all right.
Yeah, see that to me at the end, mouth feels really light, but still it has a nice coating of the palate, and then you get, I don't know, back of the tongue has a nice linger to me. It has like that nice.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a lingering kind of sting to it. A little bit. It's not super warm actually. I was expecting more kind of hotness going down the chest. It's not like that.
It's like a slow ooze, slow warm.
It's a good word for it. Actually, yeah.
Kind of slowly goes down.
Like if you drink Lagavulin,
oh yeah,
that's like hot all the way down. Like
it's campfire.
It really
through and
is.
through.
Yeah.
And the fun thing with that one was it actually has pretty good legs. So the legs are what the way it kind of pulls off the glass as it comes down.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta be real. I don't see why that matters.
It doesn't.
Okay,
It matters
it's just
zero.
like okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just kind of a thing that people talk about that usually is a sign of a good whiskey, supposedly, but that's up to you guys.
I mean, I do notice that like mine are a little bit thinner. So like sometimes you'll get like a really thick leg where it's like this big drooping kind of
like it stays for a long period of time. So this one to me is just that classic.
How much is that?
This one's should be about anywhere between $50 to $60.
Okay, so my take on it is classic, yes. Also boring and ununique.
Yeah, I
Like-
can see that.
It's a little bit too normalized. Like, I guess if you're just into like a traditional like if somebody poured me this, if I ordered a whiskey and they just were like, bring me something random, I'd be very happy with this.
Oh yeah, it's a safe bet.
Yeah, it's super safe, but it doesn't really strike me as being like a particularly noteworthy because there's nothing in the flavor or the smell that is like really popping out as being unique. So with the smell that Jefferson, for example, you'll get kind of that more salted caramel notes, but like, the smell is so smooth.
Oh yeah,
That's the crazy thing about it. Is like you don't smell any of the alcohol. You just straight up smell.
and that's for that
yeah.
one. Well, so we can do this one next.
It's up to you, man. I'd like to try yours actually.
Okay, we'll do the Breckinridge. We're gonna save the Stagg for last, just so that one's a higher proof. So Woodford, the general take then for this first tasting was not bland, but just the average. It's like it's just a really good, solid bourbon.
It's
It doesn't really need it, but it doesn't have any standouts. There's nothing that's gonna grab you and be like, oh wow, like what am I tasting? What am I getting at?
I think what I would have liked is a little bit more of the oak flavor because it's supposed to be double oaked. I think I would have preferred a little bit thicker, more char out of it. Thank you for going a little less.
Yeah, I know that first pour was a little bit strong.
Like, ooh.
So this one's
This one smells great.
Yeah,
Wow.
I thought you'd like this one.
That one's like no alcohol smell at all.
But there's a sweetness to it, very fresh, almost Fresca, like a Fresca the soda, not Fresca like the cheese, but
It's not syrupy sweet though. It's like like a lot of the like
had the
stevia
Fresca?
versus sugar.
oh yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of,
So like that's what it reminds me of, like that smell, like that crisp, or like a Sprite, but like less sweet, like a way less sweet,
Yeah,
sweet
it's like
Sprite.
it's fresh and clean, but it's not like overly saturated
Or not
with
stringent,
sweetness.
like-
yeah.
This
This
one's
tastes nearly as
it's gonna be it's a younger tasting
a
whiskey
little
as well.
mango-y too. Actually,
Oh yeah, actually,
like if you kind of go in from a part of the way.
all right, so. So this one is like candy.
Actually, what's real interesting is that with that one is nothing going back, but up the nose, it comes back to bite you a little bit. It's a little bit of sting in the nose, but going down, it's real smooth.
So for me, I also got front of the tongue, so a lot of upfront flavor, but the back end was not very strong. There's no linger. It just right down the throat.
It's
just
quick.
And it has a little bit of that kind of like that new bourbon funk or a new whiskey funk, where it's like they're not like a long, like, so like where even the Woodford, like there's no, I don't know if you can pick it up, but like there's this little bit of a funk to it, like not bad, not in a bad way, but just has like this little bit of like, not tang, but like there's a flavor there. that adds to it, and it's real light mouthfeel too. There's not oily. It's
Yeah, it's like almost like it's almost like if you had like a really high quality candied whiskey in a way.
oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like it doesn't have the bite of a typical whiskey. It almost doesn't even have the flavor profile of a typical whiskey. Like the flavor profile difference between this is
Massive.
yeah, complete opposites, right? This is like stand out, a little bit atypical, right?
Yeah.
Very unique. A little bit more kind of bright flavors, but super smooth. Whereas this is more like, hair on your chest, typical man sort of whiskey. Like this, I think would be a fantastic. I think it'd be a good gift for two types of people: people who are really experienced with whiskey, who want something a little bit unique and different, but also people who are just getting into it because it's so soft. Like it's just.
You can get like a significant other that doesn't like to drink, maybe.
Yeah.
And so they would probably be into that.
Yeah.
And it's also one of those things where it's so light. I'd almost
It's
honestly
not intense.
this would make a great cocktail mixer as well to some level, or even just with ice, like in a proper you can just in a whiskey glass, like a cocktail glass or
It'd
something.
make a great like dessert drink.
Oh yeah.
So like if you paired it with some like sweet but like dense flavors like actual caramel.
Oh yeah.
I think it'd be very good.
Or maybe it'd be interesting if it'd be a good. I don't know if it'd be good in an old fashioned. That might be pretty good. Add some bitters to it to give it some more body.
You know what I'm not picking up though a ton compared to like the Angel's Envy rum cask, which is technically a rye. I'm actually not getting a lot of the rum from it.
And that's what I was gonna say. So that's the part that I was really happy with, is that the rum flavor, it's not overly sweet. That's the other thing. It's not like a high sweet like candy, like proper like my teeth hurt sugar, but more of like that easygoing sweetness, like where it's just it's what would be a good candy? It would be kind of a not like a word like so the double oaked is like a Werther's original like caramel
Those
hard
are
candy.
so good. That is so good, dude.
Whereas this would be more of like maybe like a Starburst or something, but like in a caramel flavor. I don't know.
It'd almost be like a taffy.
Oh,
Where you don't have like a super strong sweetness to it. You kind of get more of a matured kind of
that's
flavor profile to it.
I dig that. That's actually that's very apt. I like that taffy. I agree with that. It's a rum cask finish bourbon taffy.
It's good though. I would not like if I bought that. My expectations are not met by what I was expecting, but I like the differentiation of how it tastes versus what I was thinking it was going to taste like. Like it kind of took me by surprise, but in a good way.
And that's what I was hoping for this one. I was hoping because I know you had experience.
I would go
with
out of my way to purchase this.
Yeah, that one is unique. That's the part where I loved. And that's the part we were talking about compared to the Woodford is that unique factor, right? That unique flavor. So on to the Jefferson. This is your bottle.
Yep. So this thing was like $110. I just saw a commercial, and the commercial was so good that I like had to buy it. Like, and I was really curious about how. So there's like a whole. Okay, so a lot like audio, since your audience is also in audio. There's this line that is blurry, where snake oil and actual tangible differences lie. And one of the things with this that I was curious about was like, okay, on the ocean thing, like you got a lot of sloshing, you got the air quality, and then you also have the drastic temperature differences. Yep. And I was like, what I'd really like to actually test, even though I can't, is the land version of that.
Oh.
And then the sea version of that.
I have a Jefferson Reserve at home. I should have brought it.
Is it land or is it?
It's land, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So maybe we'll do another one of these, and we'll do a Jefferson Ocean versus a Jefferson, and we'll do a more dedicated.
I'd be very curious about the differences, especially if they're using the same wood, the same aging timelines. Like, I don't know.
That would be really cool.
I would like to see where the line actually exists for.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, for like the marketing stuff, because I'm sure that's all the ocean thing is really for, is just to make this stand out, and the reason why they charge $110 for it.
I mean, I've had the Jefferson Ocean. I was a big fan of Jefferson Ocean when I first got it. So I've had, I think, 3 or 4 different voyages that I've owned, and they didn't last long in my house.
Yeah, as you can see.
There's something about them, though, that just, I'll let you pour. This is your bottle.
Oh, okay.
You do the honors. There's something about it. Like maybe it is the placebo, maybe it is the psychology, the psychological effects of knowing it was on the ocean, or it says ocean. So
So one of the things I like about the smell is it's like really subtle.
Yeah.
Like
but it smells good, man. Like that.
It does.
It
It's a very
smells so good.
smooth, clean. Like you get a lot of the typical like vanilla and caramel.
Lots of vanilla, lots of. I'm like, to me, this is even more Werther's original than the Woodford.
It's not really like, I don't get a ton of like typical like whiskey wood out of it though.
No. You know actually, you know what I get? I get salted caramels. I literally get salted caramels. Like a vanilla salted caramel.
It sounds so cliche though. I wish there was like a better description, but like if there was a salted caramel smelling whiskey, it's probably this one.
Yeah, like it, and that's just such an amazing smell. Oh, and instantaneously it has like, so where the Woodford Reserve has that warmth, this has a little bit more of the kind of like that back of the tongue linger more so, and it has a little bit more of a kick. To me.
Really? Okay. I thought that had more kick, but that was also the first one we tried, so that could be a factor. But I get like no initial tongue punch.
No, yes. It's all back of the tongue.
Yeah. And so like when it's very first hitting your tongue with the Woodford, it was like, and then soft. Whereas this is like soft, slam in the back.
And then it lingers. Like I'm getting a long like caramel linger like on the back of my tongue. Like just.
Actually, if you're the type of buyer for this, right? Like, is that a sort of oddly beneficial aspect to it where like this is more of a slow drinker where you can appreciate it, like you don't have to keep refilling your mouth with the flavor, like you can drink it, sit back for 5 minutes, just kind of enjoy the rollover on the tongue, all the oils and stuff, and you can just kind of let it sit.
It's called the linger, like that's what so that yes, exactly that, like that's one of my favorite things. Like, so at the end of the day, if I have time to drink whiskey and listen to music where I'm just like in focus mode, just relax, like I want to just detox my day, for instance, throw on some good headphones, or if I can put on the speakers, and then get a nice whiskey. And if it's something like this where it has that, like there's a complexity to it, right, too, like especially like right now, like I'm still getting these little pops on the, like even now it's like it's weird, it's slowly moving from the back of my tongue to the front of my tongue.
It's like it's complex but simple, so it's like a good painting but without the vibrant colors.
It's like kind of like, so back to kind of like an audio term a little bit, it's being able to pick apart if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just let it just roll over you and just enjoy it as well. Like it's really...
Yeah, I don't feel like it's got enough punch to be like a mixing. Not that you would want to mix with it at this price range, but like the flavor profile...
They're probably overpowered.
I think underpowered actually for the flavor. So like if you, whatever you mix that with, I feel like whatever the flavoring would be overshadowing the quality of the whiskey behind it.
Oh yeah.
Whereas the Woodford, I feel like it has enough kick with the flavor.
It could power through.
It could power through. It'd be like a good
old-fashioned maker or like what have you. Yeah.
And I don't mean that as an insult. A lot of people think that like like a mixing whiskey has to be like the bottom of the barrel. I don't think that at all. But
for me, my mixing whiskeys are, some of them people they're like, oh, only drink this straight. If I don't like a whiskey, this is how I feel a mixing whiskey is. If I don't like it, that's going into a mixing whiskey. Yeah. So, oh man, it's weird because I did notice like at the back of the tongue, it just has this nice flavor profile and just lingers there for a while. And then the fumes, they just kind of stay and kind of in your mouth a little bit. They don't go in your nose like we're. That's that weird problematic.
It doesn't come up like the Breckinridge,
where it doesn't have like that alcohol overpower. It's more like it just kind of lingers in your the top of your roof of your mouth with the fumes a little bit.
It's not a hot stinging. It's like a
mellow caramel, like a milk.
Yeah, like a slow push.
Yeah. Ooh, a soft sea salt caramel. You know what I'm talking about, like the soft chews, like a chew caramel. That's what it reminds me of, like sea salted soft chew.
All right, you've been talking all this shit about the Stagg.
All right, that was Jefferson. So this is the Stagg. So this one is highly sought after because, honestly, I think it's because of limited availability. Really, let's be real here. Like that's a lot of it.
I have a confession. I've never tried any Stagg.
This was my first Stagg, to be honest.
Okay.
So yeah, this was my very first Stagg I've ever had. I've been wanting a full blown one. Just be aware. Ooh, I'm spilling. Joys of whiskey bottles. Yeah, dude. This is a high proof, so this is something to be aware of. This is 130 proof, where the other ones are all 90 proof. So this is why this is at
like
the end.
65, right?
Yeah, this is
65%.
Yeah, this one is a beast. So it's 65.1. And it's the fun part about the Staggs. And so each barrel, each barrel has a different proof. And so you'll see it.
I like the color of it too.
Oh yeah, the color is fantastic. Look at the
really deep red.
Yeah, it's beautiful color. So each barrel is different. So each batch is different. So they're gonna have a little bit different like flavor profile, a little different proofing. And so that's the other part that some people like the hardcore collectors will go after is like they'll be, higher proofings or different barrels, and some will be slightly better than others, and what have you. Oh man, I'm getting cherry. I'm getting a lot of dried fruits or like aged fruits, like a very fruit profile.
Yeah, like matured fruits, not like
like a fresh sliced apple
fruits.
or something like that. Not like
you're not getting apple. You're not going to get lemon.
I'm getting like not prune, but like a what would be like a maraschino cherry almost in a sweet syrup.
Yeah,
type
these
of
last two like smell very mature, and mature where like there's a lot of quality behind it. There's a lot of depth behind the smell.
Yeah, a lot.
But like not a lot of it's not compensating with strength.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is how I smell. I'm not going to oversaturate your senses with too much.
But you can dive into it though if you wanted to. Like I can.
Yeah. I mean, you can pick this apart all day. Actually, as you smell it more, you start to pick out that cherry more.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cherry there. I don't want to say like prune, but like there's a lot going on in that mouthfeel there.
Yeah,
too.
it's fragrant.
Yeah,
I actually felt
hardcore.
that more on the tongue, on the front end, than I did the back end. Usually with stronger whiskeys, it's the opposite for me. So like I'll usually get it more on the swallow than I do on the actual mouthfeel.
And these are hot. This will burn you.
After drinking Lagavulin for so long, like that was almost all I drank for like a year. Like everything else is easy.
Yeah.
Like,
honestly, that's a good test to be like.
Like that, like, man. If you had to bring a drink to like a friend who is talking shit about being able to pound whiskey, like no one could pound that, dude.
Go forth, do great things.
Good luck. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Like good luck, man. Like that is a slow sipper only.
Mm-hmm. Man, so this one has to me that dark fruit kind of flavor. And it definitely lingers and has that, like I want to get some of those fumes out a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely like, there's a little bit of that aspect of like punishment when you drink it. It's got a little bit of a, hey, you're drinking something serious. Like
Pay attention to me. With ice, this really comes alive too. If we had drops of water,
I can see that.
I'll do a little ice cube or I'll do like a little drop. But usually I just do straight, to be honest.
To reference what we've already referenced here, I think this is definitely the closest to the Woodford, for sure, in profile. It's good, but traditional.
Very traditional.
Yeah.
And it has complexity, but like honestly, like I would almost, if I was to go for a drinking, like
I think that this is way more
interesting.
Yeah, like immediately you're hit with like, whoa, this is odd. So like I feel like if you're going for something different, this is the one to go for. Whereas if you're just like, I want whiskey, like I want the definition of whiskey, it's like the Woodford or the Stagg for sure.
And then honestly, if I was to grab a bottle, and this kind of speaks to what I've had before as well, like the Jefferson, man, like that one, like to me, like it's an easy drinking whiskey that I could see drinking that one and this one, as well as the Oak Woodford. But I mean,
to me, the flavor seems more expensive. So it like, to me, it's like most expensive in terms of like the flavor.
Oh, yeah.
Like then it's this, and then it's it's somewhere in between this and this. Like I guess this would be the same in terms of like what I would pay for them, just depending on what my desires for flavor would be.
Which is actually apt because this is technically the most expensive bottle here.
Yeah, but not
aftermarket.
Yeah.
This one goes higher, but that's purely because of availability.
But like if you were to, knowing what both of these taste like, if you were to just purchase it for yourself, price aside, which one would you rather have?
On a regular basis, this one.
Okay, I'm the same way. It's an easier drink.
An easy drink.
Yeah, it's
it's more instantly enjoyable. This one is just an easier going, but this one to me is what I would say is similar to something that's like a lean forward, like it's grabbing your attention. This one's like saying, "Pay attention to me, and I need to focus on you." Whereas like these other ones are more of like I can relax, do other things, I can enjoy it, and I can pick it apart if I want to. Where this one's forcing you to a little bit.
It's weird that you say that because I think the Woodford is a little bit more bold than the Stagg is. At least on like the initial kick of it, the initial flavor, like it just. Granted, it was the first one we drank.
Do you want to try it again real quick?
Yeah, actually, I will. So maybe I'll be
That's a
eating
good,
my
good
words in like
test.
2 seconds. Because initially it seems like sometimes you get something that's like overly bold because it's trying to like really show you how good it is. Yeah. Okay, so I definitely, it's actually not as strong as it was on the tongue, so I'll attribute that to it being the first one we drank.
That shock, system shock.
Yeah, and actually now I'm actually getting more kind of fruity notes from it. More of that cherry, more of that
Like a dark apricot maybe, or like or dark. I keep saying
apricot,
dark.
so I don't know.
There's a fruitiness to it.
Yeah,
Like I call it
definitely.
dark fruit, where
Yeah.
like, to me it's like something that's like an aged fruit, or like something that's like super ripe. Basically, when I say aged, or like a dark, like a super ripe fruit.
Yeah. But like not a classically fruity fruit, more of like a
Rich, very rich fruit.
yeah. Actually, I don't know between those two now. That's actually
Isn't that nuts? Like
Yeah,
and that's why I was
it's
trying to
funny
say
how-
like you have to be real careful with the high proof going to low proof too, because that's like this will burn your tongue a little bit.
I'm actually not sure. So I'd be curious to try that like first some other time because I didn't feel punished by the proof of it.
The first shocker of that one is a little more punishing on a first,
okay.
like on a first like proper taste of it, where the guy was like, he's a international whiskey tasting judge, one of those kind of guys,
Those
right?
guys fascinating. I mean, I know a lot of it's practice.
Oh, yeah.
But like, it must be great to have a superpower like that. Like, I feel like with audio, like half of your listening skills come from just raw practice, just listening a
Continuously
lot
going.
and paying attention to it. So it ends up becoming a little bit of a superpower where you're like, 2.5K is a little sharp there.
Yeah.
Like, like there's a massive difference between 13 and 15K or something like that. Whereas
Even if
normal
you're not
person's
into it.
like, yeah.
Like I'm not a big EQ guy, but I can already like as the more I've been listening and the more I get into it, the more I'm like, okay, well, there's a peak there, and I can like visualize the frequency range a little bit more, and I'm like, and I catch myself doing it. I'm like, God, like I can't believe.
Right. I think I get stuck on like a lot of people can see so deeply into the flavor of these, and I feel like I'm kind of stuck on like the first couple layers, like the first initial hits, and I don't feel like I have a deep enough view of what the flavor is trying to be.
You know what's crazy is you can go online and buy this, like especially the nose. There's these nosing kits that have like a ton of different, all the different spices and all the different, whatnot that they use for like when they describe things.
You want some more?
I'm trying to decide which one I would. Yeah, the Jefferson. Let's do the Jefferson. That was probably my favorite of the bunch for this little run. Outside, I really like the Breckinridge. But anyways, there's these kits, and there's like 100. Sometimes they go all the way up to like 100 different spices. I'm exaggerating, but so then you nose it, and then you can nose the whiskey, and then you nose the spice, and and you can start to like build your palate. And they have like dried apple, like dried out apples. They have dried out like apricots to peaches, pears, what have you.
Probably actually be better if a company did it who has like really specific quality control, because I'd like to see what the different flavors are for the same company making it in the exact same way with only one variable changed. Like maybe like a slightly higher mix or something like that.
Different corn to rye to whatever the different grains are.
Or like a slightly different wood or, different levels of char. I'd really love to see just these minute changes and then compare on an otherwise completely even playing field. The problem with like a comparison like this is like, all the variables are different.
Yeah, completely
right?
different.
Yeah, like the proof's different. The
It would be
barrels
cool to
that
get
they're using are different.
multiple different Jefferson Oceans and try the different Jefferson Oceans as well. Because in my experience, they were all slightly different. There was differences in them.
So okay, this is something that I personally kind of run back and forth on, but is that a good thing or not?
I think it is. I think it's cool because then every time you buy a new voyage, you're getting a new experience. Like even though you're like, unless you're like one of those diehards, like I love that, then you're out of luck. You're SOL, man. Because that's once those barrels are gone, those barrels are gone. That's the one thing. That's why like the pricing goes crazy on some of these. It's like you get ones that get high ratings, and they're just through the roof.
I'm kind of thinking of it like a burger from your favorite restaurant or something like that, or like a lens for a camera. Like you want,
and that's
exactly that same thing every time. You know?
And that's why there's these like the big boys, like the Jack Daniels, the Woodfords, the Jeffersons, not just the Ocean, but the actual just proper Jeffersons, the Heaven Hill stuff. A lot of those, like they have their standard staple. The Evan Williams, you got your Maker's Marks, your those kind of things. But like those ones are your staples, right? Like that's like the Woodfords,
right?
And then where I get really excited is for like these more kind of like remember when the craft beer scene like blew up? That's kind of like whiskey right now. Like whiskey is the new craft beer.
It's a little bit more experimental. Yeah, it's like
oh man,
this is like. Actually, that's kind of an interesting way of viewing it. Is like this would be like the bread and butter of the company, but this would be more of the special edition.
Yeah.
Like, let's try something a little bit different. See if people like
crazy.
Yeah. Let's go a little bit wild.
And they do that. They actually have some of the different main distilleries. They actually have the they call them the experimental barrels. Well, they'll do crazy experiments. So they'll add different staves, or they'll barrel age it in different types of barrels. Or and the one thing that's unique about bourbon, like so, these are all bourbons. The factor for bourbon is it has to be new charred oak barrels to be a bourbon, and that's the one of the only things. It can be in there for like seconds, and then as long as it's in the new charred oak.
Does that apply to this one?
Yeah, because it started as a bourbon, and then they cask aged it. They actually have some normal. They have a bunch of different ones. They have the standard bourbons. They have a rye, I believe, and I think a single malt. So I have some stuff from Texas. And so they're called balcones.
Texas balcones?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have some funk. Like
really?
Yeah, they're unique and they're fun. My favorite's Brimstone, but they have one that's made with blue corn only. And so so like you're talking about like that uniqueness or like that. So those to me, they might not be the best tasting overall or like that easy to drink, but there's so much complexity and so much like punchy in the mouth like flavors and like craziness that you're just kind of picking apart. It's just such a fun experience.
I feel like nowadays there's this whole exploration of what a whiskey can be. You know, there's like this, which is what a whiskey should be,
yeah.
right? And then there's this, which is what a whiskey can be. So yeah, I think it's I think we're getting into I love the experimentation, especially because when you look like 50, 100, 150 years down the line, like odds are this is not what whiskey is going to be later. The standards are going to change.
Even still, like there's been people that have tried like a Woodfords or like let's say a whiskey from the 70s even, or even from like the 60s or 50s, right? 40s, 30s, 20s, right? Like bananas. But that's
a risky drink. I feel like
well, it's actually surprisingly like yeah, right. That's what I was thinking. But they're talking about how like a Maker's Mark from the 70s versus today. Completely different flavor profile. Like it's in its taste, and they're like it's amazing with the 70s one. How much of that is like glorification? I don't know, but like this is super rare. It's
I wouldn't be surprised if they started like all the cliche things that we say, like vanilla and caramel. Like those are really common, but unfortunately, those are usually like the best descriptors of what a lot of these flavors are.
Because it's a standard, yeah.
Yeah, it is a standard, but I also think that if I were a company, I'd be playing up to those flavors. That's what people expect, and it seems like...
How do we tweak those to be even more or less, or like how do we make them combine better?
Well, that's kind of interesting. So both of these have sort of caramely flavors, right? But the difference in the caramel is... Like this one's a little bit more subtle. This one more punchy.
Saltwater caramel taffy, maybe, where this one's more of like a tangy hard candy of some sort.
Yeah. So like that is more like this to me is more taffy. This is more Werther's.
Yeah.
Right. So you get like that sweetness factor to it.
Maybe like a you ever had a caramel apple? Like a hardcore caramel. Like a or even like a caramel apple Werther's. You ever had those hard candies like that? Like or it's like the hard apple candy with a soft caramel over the top
or sourness to it. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting from that.
There's like a bite behind the sweetness.
Yeah. Like a crispness, like a Granny Smith green apple of some sort.
But yeah, man, this is super cool. I'd love to do this again. This is awesome.
We'll have to do it again. This is fun. I agree.
Yeah, I like this.
And I have a big collection of whiskey, so we can. Do
okay, we can. Well, I can buy all the whiskeys we need. Trust me, I won't mind.
Right on. So, hey, with that being said, thanks for drinking whiskey with me.
No, it was super difficult.
Super hard.
It's a hard life.
Oh, dang it. I look forward to seeing your thoughts on some of the other random whiskeys that we'll bring into play. And maybe we can bring in some other factors into it and see what we can do.
Next time, let's do a blind test.
Blind test.
Yeah, I'd like to see if I can differentiate the different prices.
Ooh, I have little bottles. I have little sample bottles. I can do that.
Sick. We should do that.
All right, cool
That'd be
beans.
cool. I'd be curious if you could do it too.
Probably not.
Okay. I don't know if I can. That's what I would like to know.
I think I could be able to tell the difference between the different profiles, but to tell you which one was more expensive than the other, for instance, or like to say which one was aged longer, maybe.
This one is so unique, but in such a good way that
It'd be tough.
I completely believe that this costs more than all these.
But this one has that new age funk. Like, if you would be willing to do a little tiny taste of that right now,
sure,
real quick at the end of the show, or maybe we'll cut it into something else.
He's trying to get me to buy him sushi. That's what's going on.
Yeah, let's do this. But be interested to hear your thoughts on this now after having the other ones, because this one's such a unique one.
Almost nothing on the nose.
Yeah. It's so super light. It's super light. It's almost refreshing to drink it.
That is so weird. So like, I'm not getting like typical whiskey at all. Like it doesn't even like. Actually, I'm getting peanut butter from it.
Oh wow,
that's weird.
The peanut peanut brittle is another big profile that's big in these whiskeys.
Yeah, that's a good way of explaining it. What's interesting is that other whiskey you bought the other day.
Oh yeah,
I got like immediate peanut butter from that. Yeah, it's like real sweet on the tip of the tongue. When you swallow it, there's not a whole lot of burn.
Like a peanut butter and honey sandwich, maybe?
Yeah, honey. Yeah, I could see that. But like nothing like this or the Stagg.
Honestly, I'd say that these are your traditionals. These are more of your experimentals. I guess we could probably bring these back now. So
like
traditionals, especially experimental. And then these would be like your super traditional but high proof, so it gives you that crazy kick in the mouth.
Interestingly, though, I feel like the Jefferson is a little bit more like.
I'd say it's this with uniqueness.
Yeah, it's like a purist made it.
You know what this to me is this. It's like someone that made the Woodford Reserve, made Jefferson, right? The Double Oak, and said, like we were talking about before, like how do we tweak this to really like exemplify a certain flavor profile?
Yeah,
or how do we
accentuate
it? Or like what do we do to put this on a pedestal a little bit? And it's that salted caramel, man. I don't know. Maybe it is psychological, but like I get that.
I think
like,
there's also
saltwater taffy
a benefit to having like a more subtle flavor profile because I get subtlety out of that.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like when you don't oversaturate any particular portion of it, you get to like your tongue gets to relax a little bit and pick up a little bit more of what's going on. And so I feel like that is like, it's a more subtle flavor compared to the others, but it's also more complex.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the complexity comes from the fact that it is subtle and I can just analyze everything and I'm not getting hit with that.
You're not being punched. You're not being like, pay attention to me. Like, ugh.
In a weird way, I feel like it makes me like kind of a more of a pseudo whiskey taster. Like I feel like I understand more of that drink.
It's easier to
even though it's not me,
without having to
drink, right?
Your pinky goes up.
Yeah.
You know, like I agree. Like I think that there's the differences is that you get this one you can easily pull it apart versus being forced to like pay attention to the different complexities.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. This is fantastic. And thanks, Josh, for drinking my whiskey.
Yeah.
and vice versa. This was fantastic. A lot of fun stuff here, and we'll do it again. We'll have a lot of fun, and we'll maybe grab some more complex stuff, more unique stuff, and see where it goes.
Yeah, let's try it again. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching.